Hey guys, DV here. I've got another tutorial for you. Actually, this is part of a new series that I'm doing on Lightworks beta, which is going to walk you through all the different steps to creating a project. Today's video, of course, is going to be creating a new project and changing your project settings. So to get started here, we have the project browser window open. As you can see, we're under local projects, and there's a number of options you can change prior to beginning your project. So you can either create a new project by selecting create new project from the drop down menu, or you can go ahead and click restore from archive. So let's take a look at that option first. If we did that, you can see that there's a box that pops up here with some options, which include the archive and the destination. Now if you change the destination drive, so basically select a drive from your system that you'd like to be saving the project on. So we'll go ahead and keep with that one, because then what it does is basically backs up to drive G through the RAID configuration. So if we went to archive now, we can choose our file and say we had one saved under portfolio and under movies, right? And then we'd have our project name here if we had one archived, and we'd select OK. And now it basically load the project. Now, seeing as how we don't have one that's in the archive at the moment, we could also go under create new project. And basically what that's going to do is open up a couple of different options here prior to beginning your new project. So the first option we can change is the frame rate. Now if you go ahead and select the drop down menu, you can see you have the options for none, 24 frames per second, 25, up to 60 frames per second. Most consumers are going to be in one of these three, 24 frames per second, 25 frames per second, or 30 frames per second, depending on PAL or NTSC. Now, our T2i camera, I most commonly use the 24 frames per second because that's a little bit closer to the actual film look. So if we go ahead and select that, we'd have 24 frames per second. Oh, one other quick note on that is that these other options are mostly for the more professional cameras, including 60 frames per second for slow motion shots, etc. So then the next option we can do is to change the name of the file. So let's go ahead and name this DV Studio. Oops. Alright, and if we go ahead and click create, that's going to open up the new project and the new workspace. But before we do that, I just wanted to show you a couple more options on the project browser window. If you go up to the top here on the right hand side, you can click the button that shows settings menu, and there's a couple of different options here which include show project locations. Right now it's selected as, or set as no, but we could change that to yes, and as you can see it then shows the path where the file and the project are actually saved. So if we go back here, we can also choose how to sort them. So whether we wanted to sort them by frame rate, the date of creation, or just a project name. So it's already set at name, so let's go ahead and choose the date. So you can see that changes it up just a little bit. So also we could go down here and say we wanted to delete a project. So we could go over here, say we want to get rid of this one. We could go up to the options, select delete selected project, and yes, destroy project. And it is destroyed. It's gone. See there? Okay. So now let's go ahead and create that new project. We have that set. Now let's set the name again. Say it clicked out of it, and let's click create. Alright, and now you can see another window pops up with some different options that you can change for the video and audio settings. Okay, so now let's take a look at the video options. Under format, you have some different options you can change depending on your type of footage. If you're using standard definition footage, you're going to be choosing from PAL and NTSC formats. PAL is usually going to be Europe and some of the countries overseas from the United States, and NTSC is going to be the United States, and Japan, I do believe, also use that format. Now underneath of each of these you see similar options which include 4:3 and 16:9. Now what that refers to is the aspect ratio of the footage, 4:3 being full screen, 16:9 being the widescreen format. So depending on which one you choose, it's going to affect your footage that way. Now there's also another option for letterboxing, which we're going to cover in just a moment. Now if you're using high definition footage, you have a few more options available to you. 720p shows you a couple different higher frame rates, which is very useful, because especially the T2i, which is a camera that I use, and a lot of other semi-pro users on FX Home use that as well. And you can use higher frame rates on the T2i using 720p footage, which just looks a little bit softer than the 1080p. Usually you can get away with it. Now if you have 1080i, you have a couple options ranging from 25 frames per second to 30 frames per second. Now you also have 1080p, which does something similar, ranging from 23.9 frames per second up to 30 frames per second. But it also has 24 frames per second, which really gives you that cinematic look, which is much closer to film than, say, 30 frames per second. Now, if you're using a 2K camera, such as the Red or other high-grade professional cameras like that, you have some options afforded to you down here, depending on what type of footage you're using. Now, most of our users aren't going to be worrying about that, although I'm sure there are some of you who will be using this software that will be lucky enough to have those options available to you. So once you've selected your which format you'd like to use, you just click it, and then that closes the drop-down window. Now, full SD frames, I believe, refers to if you're exporting a single frame of your video as a still image, but I cannot be certain about that. Now, if any of you guys, or it could refer to the preview, but I'm not entirely sure. So if anyone knows, you can leave a comment. That would be great. But there's either yes or no is the option there. Now, precision is a term that I know from mathematics and from computer programming through Java. Basically, it refers to the quality of whatever you're working with. So in this case, it would be your video footage, I do believe. And of course, the more bits you have, the higher the quality the footage, I guess, would be. So if you go here, I have at least 8 bits, and 10 bits is the two options that are allotted. So we'll just leave it at 10 bits, that's fine. Now there's a couple options that are grayed out here. Perhaps it has something to do with the Red cameras, but I'm not entirely sure because I'm not really using that, and it's not really anything similar to Vegas or Premiere that I can tell. Now letterboxing is the other thing I was going to talk about. If you click on configure, you can then drag these dotted lines up to where you'd like your footage to be cropped to, and to have your letterboxing or aspect ratio changed. You can use set from picture, which I believe would set it just from the footage that you have imported. So if you had full screen or widescreen footage, that would set it from that. You want to usually probably leave these about the same, and then over here you can choose different zooms, or just leaving it at the aspect ratio that's locked in up here. And that's of course similar to other editing software as well. And then if you have a 3D camera, there's some options here regarding 3D stereo, but again, I don't have to worry about that. But it's pretty cool that the software can handle that kind of footage. Alright, so now you have also the audio options available to you. So if you go ahead and click the audio tab, you can change the audio rate, which is, I think is just set at 48 kilohertz. Yeah, but then you can also change the audio monitor delay, however much you'd like. You could change the duration, the soft cut duration, which I guess would be to ease in the audio a little bit. Now, so you can have normalization, which I guess normalizes your... Yeah, that's something that like Audacity and Sound Booth do as well, which is a pretty cool feature to normalize the audio, try to make it a little bit more even. And then track grouping. This is pretty useful for the timeline feature because you can group audio tracks rather than have, say, two different audio channels. You could group them as one prior to importing it, even by just selecting your stereo WAV imports. You could do related tracks or only for stereo content to then just have one audio track as well. You could do recordings with video is what you'd want to change to do it prior to importing video footage from like a camera with audio included with it. You could do related tracks and it would just combine them together, which would be pretty cool. You wouldn't have to do it afterwards once you've imported it to the timeline, so it's a little bit easier. Let's see, what else is there? Okay, that's all we have for audio, but if we went over to film, there's some options for film, including frames per second, and some various settings which would show up most likely if you had clicked on 2K footage at the beginning of the video here. So if we go back to film, we have that. Now under miscellaneous, there's a couple just random options, which include setting a password for your project. So whatever, we could set that password and just click enter, and we're going to repeat that password to confirm it, and then press enter. Wow. So new password has been set. Alright, whatever. And room decor. This I guess could be useful for distinguishing between different rooms. It just lets you choose the background image that you'd like for your workspace. So these are all the same, they're just different rate, or what would you call that, dimensions or resolutions, but you could change it to shark perhaps. Shows little tiles of sharks. I don't really like that one, but that one's kind of cool, I guess. I don't know. It would definitely distract me, I think. Or you could do text default or text plain. Yeah, it's not bad, but we'll just set it back to what it was. It was just a boring blue, and then click OK. Oh, perhaps actually, I think you could probably import one of your own images as well. Let's see. Do we have anything on here? Let's see. Okay, let's try this. Does that work? Oh, it does. You can even import your own image, which actually would be really cool. Let's see, penguins and tulips. Yeah, so there's a number of different things you could do. You can import your own image or whatever. Alright, so click OK, close that. And then also you have project database, which we're going to show you in a later tutorial as well. Okay, so now if we go over to the details tab, we can change a couple of different things. First, you see the creation date for the project, which is today, of course, and then you can see the location where it's saved. And also you can add some notes down at the bottom here. So let's see, we could do we could just add something like that, and these notes are actually searchable later on, which we're going to cover in another tutorial, believe it or not. And actually, that's really a good time for me to explain what's going on here. See, I'm doing a 9 or 10 part web series on tutorials for Lightworks, ranging from like today's with creating a new project, to doing an edit, to explaining all the tools in the toolbox, and a number of other things to show you everything inside and out for Lightworks. So I hope that this tutorial was helpful to you, and I hope that you do subscribe if you're finding this series to be useful. Now, before we wrap it up right here, we're just going to finish with our notes. You go ahead and close this if we're all set. And then if you need to access those project settings for any reason later on, you can simply go up here in the top left-hand corner and click on Project and then the project name, which is DV Studio. And then it's going to open up that box again with all the different options that we changed before. So that's about it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.